The film begins in 1967, set in Los Angeles, where Alice lives with her 2 daughters in their home. Recently, her husband has passed away, and the 3 of them are struggling to overcome their grief. To sustain the household, Alice pretends to be a spirit medium, claiming she can connect people with the spirits of their loved one. She can make them talk, which is not true at all. And in this fake business of her, both her daughters also support her, Doris and Paulina. One day, Paulina goes to her friend's house for a party, where all her friends decide to play the Ouija board. Through this board, these people could connect with the spirits, and there were 3 rules to play this game. This game should never be played alone. The second rule was that this game should never be played in the graveyard. And the third rule was to always say goodbye while finishing this game. These people start playing the game, and surprisingly, the planchette also moves. Paulina was not very shocked because she knew about all these dramas. Anyway, in the meantime, her mom came to pick her up, and she also left for home. On the way, she advised Alice that we also bring an Ouija board in our house, with which it will be very easy for us to fool our clients. Alice agrees to it and brings an Ouija board to her house in the morning. After keeping the board at home, she goes to school to pick up Doris, where we see that the children of the school were bullying Doris, about which Doris had not shared with anyone. Anyway, Alice came home with Doris, and as soon as she came home, she decided to play the Ouija board without knowing that there were some rules to play this game. This game should never be played alone, and she was playing alone. While playing, she noticed that the planchette was moving. Now Alice starts asking some questions to any spirit present here. Alice does not get the answer here on the planchette, but above, we see that Alice's daughter Doris is now possessed, and she is answering all those questions, which Alice was sitting down and asking the Ouija board. When Alice asked the name of the spirit, then Doris said the name of Marcus. That is, whatever spirit came here, and the one who possessed Doris, his name was Marcus. And after a while, as soon as Alice stops playing the Ouija board, Doris also comes out of the position. But even leaving the game, Alice broke another rule. She did not say goodbye. It is night, and we see that Doris has also come to the Ouija board. She knew that this Ouija board connects people with the spirits of their loved one. She tries to connect with her dad, Roger's spirit, and surprisingly, the Ouija board's planchette is moving, and she thinks she has contacted her dad. The next day, Doris goes to school, and in the school, Father Tom, who was running the school, he calls Alice to school. It seemed to me that Alice helped him in the homework that Doris did today, but it was not so. He did a great homework. He had never performed like this in school. Anyway, Alice now comes home with Doris, and when she comes home, she finds out that her house is going to be sealed soon, because after the death of her husband Roger, Alice was not able to pay the taxes of this house. Alice and Paulina were very upset about this, whereas Doris was also with the Ouija board at this time. Through this Ouija board, Doris's dad tells her about a room in the basement which had a lot of money in a cupboard. Knowing this, Doris is surprised and tells Alice, and Alice also goes there to check, and all her talks come true. She also felt that Doris has really made a connection with her dad. That's why the 3 of them decided to play Ouija board together, to talk to her dad. First of all, Alice wanted to check, is this spirit answering Roger or someone else? She asks a question to this spirit, which only she and Roger knew. And when Alice got the right answer, she found out that this spirit is not of anyone else, but of her husband. Alice now began to believe in this Ouija board, and Doris also told her that she is also able to see the spirits on this planchette. Alice plans that, with the help of Doris and the Ouija board, she will really try to connect her clients with her relative. But Paulina refuses to support her in this plan. But Alice continued her plan. He kept connecting people like Doris with a Ouija board with her love, and because of this business, Doris also stopped going to school. While playing Ouija board, Doris often made strange sounds which almost looked like people's family members, and because of this, her clients started believing in them more. Their business was going very well, but during all this, Doris kept feeling pain in her neck. She was feeling something heavy on her. That's why she takes the planchette and looks through the mirror. There was an evil spirit on her shoulder, seeing which she got scared. She screamed, so that evil spirit went inside her. The evil spirit took over her and possessed her. As soon as she was possessed, Doris became normal, and she whispered something in her sister's ear. She said something slowly, because of which Paulina also started having scary dreams. The next day, we see that Doris was in school, and as soon as some children start bullying her, then Doris hurts them with her powers. Doris comes home. Today, Paulina's friend came to her house. When he talks to Doris, today, Doris talks to him in a very scary and strange way. She tells him that if someone dies by strangling, then how does he feel? How does he feel pain? Hearing this boy felt very strange. Now when Paulina comes to her room, she sees that someone had stitched her doll's lid. Seeing this, Paulina got angry. She thought this was Doris's work, But Doris said, "No, I didn't do this. Dad did this because he wants to shut down all the voices in this house." He was talking about the voices that Doris was making these days. Hearing this, Polina gets scared and goes and tells Alice, "I think Doris is going crazy. She does very strange things these days." At night, she sees that Doris had made some notes, and these notes were in Polish language. Although no one in their house knew Polish, she takes these papers and goes to Father Tom in school and requests him to translate these pages. After getting those pages translated, Father Tom himself comes to their house in the evening, and as soon as he comes home, he says to Alice, "I need an Ouija board session because I want to connect with my wife." Their session is started. Father Tom asks Doris, "What was my wife's middle name?" Ranchit moves and tells Lynn. During all this, Doris had said something in the voice of Father Tom's wife, which surprised everyone. Everyone thought this session was successful. After this session, Father Tom asked Alice and Polina to meet alone. Father Tom tells them that the session that just happened was not successful at all. "My wife's middle name was not Lynn, but Catherine, and Doris said Lynn name. Because after asking this question, I started thinking of Lynn in my mind." Means Father Twist was revealing here that Doris did not connect with anyone's spirit. She just read people's minds and answered them. As far as Doris has said different voices, she says only one word in those voices. And people imagine those voices in the voices of their loved ones. Means Doris was able to say the voice of a random man or woman. Because Father Tom told that the voice that Doris had said at that time was not my wife's. Alice also asked that how is Doris able to do all this? Father Tom told that he is possessed by some evil spirit, which is making Doris do all the work. He told Polina that the pages you gave me, there is a story of a man named Marcus who came to Los Angeles from Poland. During World War II, a mad doctor caught Marcus, and that doctor kept doing weird experiments on Marcus. That doctor was a psychopath. He used to catch and bring people like Marcus. He used to experiment on them. He used to keep them locked in his basement, and finally, he used to kill them. And this house in which Alice and her family are living at this time, this was actually the house of that doctor. And all the people who were killed by that doctor, their corpses were still in this house. Means assume that this house was a graveyard. And as we know first, that this is the rule of the Ouija board. That game should not be played in the graveyard. So the third rule is that Alice broke the Ouija board. And because of this, these people were going to get stuck in a big problem. Father Tom goes ahead and tells that in these pages. Marcus has also written his feelings after his death. Even after death, he is able to feel all these things. He has been in this world with other spirits for many years. He lives in this house. Marcus had written in these pages that the spirit world is very cold. It is voiceless. No one can speak in. No one has a voice. But Marcus has got a voice in the form of Doris. This was the reason that Doris was able to answer all the questions of Alice correctly, because Marcus has always been among them. We see Doris sitting on the sofa below. Her eyes are terrible and she has opened her mouth completely. In the meantime, the door is knocked and she becomes normal. When she opened the door, Polina's friend was here. After saying hello to him, she took him to the basement. After going to the basement, this boy gets some skulls here. The skulls of dead people are found here. Seeing them, he gets scared, and we see Doris behind, which was being possessed in a strange way. Her body was also turning, and suddenly she came and attacked this boy. And while attacking, her eyes have turned completely white. This time by attacking, she strangled this boy and killed him. And here, Father Tom also comes down with Polina and Alice after his meeting. As soon as he comes, he wakes up to see that Polina's friend's body was hanging in the middle of his house in such a way that as if this boy died mysteriously, he himself was hanged. Seeing this, Father Tom got scared and immediately went to the basement. Here, the father sees the skulls of many people inside the wall. That's why the father immediately tells Alice to burn his Ouija board. People had already burned the Ouija board, but after a while, we saw the same Ouija board safely kept on their table. Here we see that during this time, they were not getting Doris anywhere. But then the father heard someone behind the walls. He also found a hidden door here, which had another room inside. This was the lab of that mad doctor, in which he used to do experiments on humans. And here, Doris was possessed. As soon as Father Tom comes here, the spirits here also possess Father Tom. And now Father Tom himself attacks Alice and Polina. To save them, they both run away from here. It is shown that that spirit kills Father Tom by suffocating him. While possessed, Doris now comes out to kill her mother and sister. Doris is caught by her mother, whom she takes unconscious to the basement. Here we see that Polina was possessed by her father, who took her to his room. Here Paulina's father told her to stop the voices coming from the spirit world. All these voices were coming here as medium to Doris. That's why Paulina was possessed by Doris, just like I was possessed by your doll. Paulina comes to the basement to save her mother, where Doris was about to attack her mother and kill her. This time, Paulina brought a stitching needle to stitch her sister's lips. She attacked Doris immediately, but a lot of spirits started stopping her from behind. A lot of black hands were shown on her body, but Paulina did not stop. She finally stitched Doris's horn just like her doll, and as soon as she did this, Doris was killed. After dying, Doris's soul finally meets her father's soul and becomes happy. Here we see Paulina, who was possessed by all the souls here, and as soon as she was possessed, she killed her mother. As soon as her mother died, she regained consciousness and she started screaming loudly, realizing what she had done to her mother. After which the scene cuts here, and after a lot of years, Paulina is shown in the mental hospital. She was accused of murdering her mother and sister. Here from the doctor's words, we know that the police had never found Doris's body, and Paulina had never mentioned any of this to them. We send Paulina back to her room, where she prepares an Ouija board using her own blood and attempts to summon her sister's spirit. The ritual works, and soon we see Doris's spirit sitting beside her. As we pass by Dr. Paulina's room, she senses something unusual. She pauses near the door, and Paulina stands facing her. Everything in the room appears normal, but what she cannot see is Doris's spirit, now twisted and sinister, hovering behind her in a menacing way. With this chilling sight, the movie ends.